Hello, hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Happiness from Within. I'm your host, Jeanette Prado. Here at Happiness from Within, it's our goal to touch people's hearts and souls at a very deep level. In today's episode, I had the honor to sit down with multimillionaire David Meltzer. David is the CEO of Sports One Marketing. He's also an award-winning humanitarian, a two-time national best-selling author, and top 10-note speaker from Forbes magazine. In today's episode, David explains about his upbringing and how he learned the importance of money. And when his father forgot his 10th birthday, he got to actually know how his father was, and all of a sudden, his superhero father was a villain in disguise. But then a strange thing happened on his 30th birthday, which again shocked his mind about how he actually mistaken his father again. Sometimes we hate people not because they are different. We hate them because they are the same as us and have the same qualities that we hate in ourselves. From that encounter on his 30th birthday, he realized that he was manipulative and a liar, just like his dad, and he wanted to change it. After reading quantum physics and metaphysics, he came to the realization and a way to change himself. He learned that in just 24 hours. And we do that just with one action, and the rest is a reaction. And one needs to use that action as the center. So if they deviate from it in cases of ego comes into the picture, and one can use it to come back on track. The one action is very important because it should connect you to your purpose and give you the momentum and trajectory for you to achieve your goals. The reactions to this should bring you joy, happiness, and fulfillment. Understanding quantum mechanics had helped him have a better understanding of money and faith, and pragmatic time had helped him to understand how to be more productive. David also talks about how to sleep in the most common habit. It's important why we need to focus on it. In the end, David tells us what happiness from within means to him. And there's so many other golden nuggets. And so I just invite you guys to sit back, relax, grab yourself a green smoothie, maybe a cup of coffee or tea, and I'll catch you in the interview. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 16 of Happiness from Within. I am so ecstatic, excited for today's guest. Today's amazing guest is David Meltzer. David is the CEO of Sports One Marketing. He was also voted in Forbes as the top 10 keynote speaker, award-winning humanitarian, a two-time national best-selling author. And in this 20 minutes of power, so greatly honored to have this 20 minutes for him to share his story briefly and to bring some words of wisdom. And as you guys know, the purpose of this podcast is to touch people's hearts and souls at a very deep level. And I really feel that Dave's story really implements that. So he's actually here on the line. Hi, David.
Hi, how are you, Janet?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Amazing. Thanks for taking the time. This is incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a pleasure to meet you. I think it was a month or 2 months back at your event. And I would love for you to just share briefly before we jump into the questions. So you guys, David actually provides so much value. You can actually go to one of these sessions. Can you talk a little bit about these sessions that you do across America, providing value to the world with your message?
Yeah. So, I'm blessed with activity I get paid for and activity I don't get paid for throughout the entire world. And so what I look to do is have as much productivity and accessibility in my life that I can. So productivity is how much value can I provide? Accessibility is how accessible am I? And also how am I accessing what I want? And so what I do is I have meetups in every city that I'm doing business in. And so whether I've been paid to be an executive coach or a speaking engagement or running some sort of business development for my sponsorship media marketing company that I own, I always take the time in every city, and I travel 200 days a year. So I take the time for at least an hour to have a meetup where I will post where I'm going to be at what time And it's basically just a Q&A session to leverage my situational knowledge of all that I've learned through all of these years, as well as my relationship capital, building and helping others in that area with people that I know, to connect them and allow them to accelerate and grow at an exponential rate. And it's really been beneficial for everyone that attends.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. So if you can briefly talk about your childhood, you have such an amazing story of this goal that you had, that you wanted to be rich. You know, you came from a family of not a lot of money at all, but can you talk about that?
Yeah, at the time I was 5, I had a single mom, 6 kids, grew up with very little monetarily, but a whole lot of love. And the only time that I was ever unhappy as a child was when I didn't have enough money for things, or even worse, I saw my mom crying because we didn't have enough money to fix the car. We weren't living in the greatest area in Akron, Ohio, and we definitely didn't have the biggest home. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 5 boys and 1 girl. So I decided at a young age that because the only time I wasn't happy was always regarding money, that money must buy happiness, and that if I bought my mom a house and a car and had a lot of money at 5 years old, 45 years ago, I thought $1 million was a lot of money. So at 5 years old, I was going to be a millionaire, buy my mom a house and a car, and everything else that I wanted.
Wow, that's amazing. Can you talk about your experience? Actually, if you don't mind, can you talk about the relationship that you had with your father? Because I remember listening in an interview, you talked about how you didn't have such a good relationship with your father, but then in your 20s, 30s, 40s, of how that relationship grew. And also, if you can include in there about the jacket that he gave you, but just anywhere anything you'd like to share.
Absolutely. So even though my dad left when I was 5, he was my hero. In fact, I have a lot of ego-based emotion and consciousness about how poorly I treated my mother about my father, because I would tell my mother how much my father was my hero. And back in the 70s, my dad wasn't even giving child support. And here I was, my poor mom was tortured, unsupported. And my dad was my hero because he had a lot of money and he had girlfriends and wives that were closer to my age than his, and just a variety of things that he did that weren't that cool. But he made a mistake with me at 10 years old. He forgot my birthday. Wow. And even to make it worse, instead of just owning up to it and being accountable, he said that he didn't forget my birthday, that he was just didn't believe in birthdays. And that this now became an issue for me because I was pretty bright, and my dad was discredited fully, and I was so hurt that I went from my dad being a hero to me hating my father. My father was a liar. He was a manipulator. He was an overseller, a back-end seller, compulsive gambler, a cheater, like all the things that I learned about my father. And the irony is, as I got older, the first warning sign that I was living my life in the wrong way — I was a multimillionaire by the time I was 30. Mm-hmm. I received a birthday present from my father in my 30s, and I was on a journey of trying to understand him. I was hopeful that I could at least have a friendship with him by the time I was 30, because my life was going so well. I wanted him to be a part of, my life with my beautiful wife and my daughters, and, growing with me. But he sent me a birthday gift for the first time in 20 years. It was a huge box, and in it was a sport coat that fit perfectly, which really made me feel good that not only did he buy a custom tailored jacket for me, but it fit perfectly, which meant he took the time to ask at least my wife what size I was or get my measurements. And then furthermore, when I opened up the jacket with all the excitement and fulfillment and purpose that it gave me, I realized that he had torn out all the pockets. He had torn out all the lining. And so I called him extremely, extremely upset. And I asked him, "Why are you torturing me?" And he said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "You just sent me a birthday present after 20 years, after lying to me, telling me you didn't believe in birthdays. You now are torturing me by sending me a jacket that I can't wear." And he said, "It's not for wearing." I said, "Why would you send it?" He said, "I want you to hang it in your closet and remind you of me." And I'm like, literally, like, what, you're a jerk? And he said, "No, I want you to remind you that you're just like me." And I screamed at him, "I'm nothing like you." And he said, "Yeah, you are." He said, "And I just want to remind you that you are not going to be the richest man in the cemetery, that you can't take anything with you when you're gone. And this jacket will be a reminder of me and for me that you are just like me, and I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I've made. And so from that day, I realized that although I didn't have a perfect father, that my father cared about me and taught me some valuable lessons, especially the one, the reason I hated him so much wasn't that he was not like me. It was because I hated everything about him that I hated about myself.
Wow. Can you also expand on you were talking about, I read somewhere, it was an interview, you talked about how the reason also that you had changed was because you started, another reason the relationship with your father started changing was because you started loving yourself. Can you dive a little bit into that? Because in this podcast, we dive really deep into the heart.
Yeah, no, I love that. No, and that's exactly what I was referring to, right? I realized that, I hated these things about me. I was an overseller, back-end seller, a liar, a manipulator, and I did not want to live my life that way. Mm-hmm. And so, understanding the duality of mindset, studying physics, quantum physics, metaphysics, realizing that there is only one action in a man-made construct of 24 hours. That action should be to find your center, find your peace, clear the connection to that inspires you. So many people, there's so much interference. We're constantly connected to the biggest and most powerful source in the world. And we have corroded that connection. We have created interference for that connection. And so I've simplified life into a mindset of I only take one action every day. And that first action is the most critical action. It's the one that most people get confused and they get into the weeds and they allow the momentum to go in a trajectory that's far off of point. So for me, I take one action. I'm focused on that action and finding peace, finding my center, finding joy, clarity, and cleaning the connection to that which inspires me. And then furthermore, everything else after my first action is a reaction. And so I need to have a mindset for reaction, which says the only thing that will take me out of center, out of truth consciousness, out of the clear creative power of connecting to that source in a very, very powerful way is ego-based consciousness. So I need to learn to react to when I'm acting in ego-based consciousness, the need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be separate, inferior, superior, anxious, fearful, frustrated, angry, attacking, resentful, all these different things. I need to figure out a second mindset for my day. If I'm only allowed one action, and that's to find centered peace or my truth consciousness, then my reaction, which is caused by being an ego-based consciousness, an accelerated trajectory off of point, off of my potential, then my only other mindset should be how to get back to center. So I have a center, get back to center philosophy that deals with the true physical fact that I only am allowed one action a day. Every other thing is a reaction. Therefore, I need that duality of mindset in order to maximize my potential, to enjoy, right? Be happy with the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit pursuit of my truth or my potential.
Wow, David, that's amazing. At your session, you if you could expand on, you gave a really just amazing, beautiful description of the relationships. Like you had talked about, if you can expand, you talk about the timing, how you make it a priority to have, I can't remember exactly. You said, you call your mom, you talk to her. I think it was 5. Can you talk about that? Because I really feel like my audience would have that would bring a lot of value to them.
Yeah, I think understanding the quantum field, the field of intention, the two powers of the universe, one, the pragmatic power of money, the energy or object of energy that we put into the flow, the currency of the pragmatic world, but also faith, which is the aggregate of what we think, say, do, and believe, and the unconscious competencies of our personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions that are aggregated into a frequency. That frequency has a power of the signal, it has a spectrum of the signal, and it also has clarity of the signal. And all three of those things indicate and pull from that quantum field. In order to do that, we need to understand pragmatic time. And we need to look at pragmatic time with a lens of productivity and accessibility, right? Like I said, how much value are we providing? How am I accessible to others? And how am I accessing what I want in that, we start utilizing the efficiencies of the 24 hours of man-made construct. And then one thing that I do is realize that there's only one consistent habit worldwide, and it takes up the most time of any other habit, and that's sleep. And the biggest transgression in our world is that the subconscious and unconscious mind are active in our rest, in our sleep, yet nobody spends any time focused in on that biggest consistent persistent behavior worldwide, and the most powerful one that affects the conscious and subconscious and unconscious, which then directly affects the way we live the other 16 hours of our day. So what I've done is I try to prioritize at least 5 things that are very, very important to me every day, with a minimum activity every day, because I believe that 2 minutes, for example, of meditation a day is worth far more than 2 hours on a Saturday. So not only do I get more power, exponential growth, and acceleration, but I get the efficiency of productivity and accessibility of time, because I'm only spending 14 minutes a week for more results than 2 hours on a Saturday. So moreover, what I've done with my relationships, because I put my health first, so I put a minimum of 1 hour a day towards my health, and a minimum of 1 hour a day is worth way more than 10 hours on a Saturday. So I'm getting exponential acceleration and growth in my own fitness and health. Secondly is my family. So the second thing I prioritize is family. So in order to do that, I put minimums on my relationship. So my wife gets a minimum of 30 minutes a day present with me, whether that's on FaceTime or in person. And then my 9-year-old son gets 30 minutes minimum a day with me. Then my 3 teenage daughters get a minimum of 2 minutes a day with me. And I know the people listening out there are like, that's not very much time. Well, they only offered me, I asked for 5. I had to negotiate for 2. So I work within the reality of the pragmatic world that teenage girls just do not want to communicate with their father that much. But I do get them for 2 minutes a day, and I get exponential results, because remember, 2 minutes a day is worth more than 2 hours on a Saturday.
Wow.
And that's way more than most dads get to spend with each of their teenagers. So instead of having to take 6 hours, I only take 2 minutes a day. And then finally, my best and most exponential result came from my relationship with my mother, where I spend a minimum of 1 minute a day with my mother to make sure she knows every single day that I love and appreciate her. And that has as exponential results. I've never had a stronger and a better relationship with my mother than now. And all I have to do is spend 1 minute a day.
Wow, David, that's actually one of my favorite things that I got out of your session when I met you a few months ago. I just think that's so powerful, because imagine if all of us in the world did that, what a different world we would live in, just building those relationships with those key people in our life. I mean, it's just, that is just so powerful. So thank you so much for sharing that. I know we only have about 6 minutes, but if you could briefly talk about, you were in a position when you were selling legal research, and I think this was a time, and please correct me if I'm wrong, can you just briefly talk about one of the hardest times that you had in your life? And then the last question is going to be, what does happiness from within mean to you? If you can sum that up. But I was really inspired by your story.
So, my economic gain, 9 months out of law school, I took a job in the internet despite my mom's advice to take a real legal job, being an oil and gas litigator, which is a valuable lesson that I learned. Is just because someone loves you doesn't mean they give you good advice. But the bigger lesson is don't put faith in what other people want in you. If you want to be a copy, if you want to be ordinary, then go ahead and put faith in what other people want for you. If you want to be extraordinary, then look within and believe and put faith in what you want. Take into account and take the advice and counsel of others to determine what you want. But when you know what you want, put full faith in what you want, the aggregate of what you think, say, do, believe in those unconscious competencies that I previously discussed. Make sure those are all aligned with what you want. So 9 months out of law school, through efficiencies, effectiveness, and statistical success, I was a millionaire. I bought my mom a house and a car, reaffirming for sure that money bought happiness. And through a progression of working in the Silicon Valley, raising $169 million, becoming the first CEO of the first smartphone manufactured by Samsung called the PCE phone, the first Windows CE device with Microsoft ever created, being a multimillionaire in my early 30s, I just got more and more reinforcement that money bought happiness. And I started to surround myself with the wrong people and the wrong ideas. I started living the majority of my time in a ego-based consciousness. And that caused me, 2 years before I lost over $100 million, it caused me to make a quantum shift in my life. Catalytic by my dad's at 30 telling me that I was living my life the wrong way, exacerbated by my best friend telling me he didn't like the people I surrounded myself with, and me lying to him, telling him that I wasn't like those people. And then finally, my wife threatening that she wasn't happy and would leave me if I didn't change my way and take stock in who I was and what I wanted to become. And I took stock into gratitude. I took stock into forgiveness. I took stock into accountability and understanding that everything comes through me for other people in appreciation. I was thankful for what I had. My responsibility was to add value to it and give it away. Through that quantum shift, through that change, I actually am one of the few people that I bottomed out spiritually before I bottomed out economically. So 2 years before I bottomed out economically, I bottomed out spiritually, which made the economic bottom of losing over $100 million very easy for me. The only difficult thing that I had is I actually had to go tell my mom, not only did I lose everything and I was living under the guise of the fetus wasn't fully developed till after graduate school. Oh, you were only successful if you're a doctor or lawyer. If you weren't, you were a failure. I had to go tell her that I had lost everything, but more importantly, I had forgotten to take her house out of my name. So I also had to tell her she had to move. At that point in my life, I realized what unconditional love was, because without blinking, my mom told me and asked me if I was okay, asked me if I needed any money, asked me how she could help me. Wow. Never went to blame, shame, and justification. Showed me what unconditional love was. And since then, I've woken up every morning and praying to God in that space of peace, happiness, and joy. May God put at least 10 people in front of me that I can help. I live my life of service, and I also live my life of asking. They're very complementary, because asking plus service equals flow. Most people don't have a problem being of service and giving. I am really a proponent about changing the world by asking. And there's one simple question, if you don't know it, in order to facilitate that, it's, do you know anybody that can help me? If you can learn that question, you can exponentially connect to others. Others have at least a minimum of 1,000 contacts each. So if we're just asking that question to at least one person a day, we can increase our network 30,000 people a month, almost 500,000 people a year. And if you can do it 4 times a day, it's almost 2 million, and 8 times it's almost 4 million. It just gets extraordinary by getting into the habit, not only of being of service, but to ask, do you know anybody that can help me? The final question that you asked me, as we're tying into the last minute here.
Yes, go ahead.
Is look within, right? All of these things that I have discussed today, the alignment that I've given you, the inspiration and connection and clarification for that interference, inside of us, right, is everyone, right? What's inside of us is the truth, and everything that exists within us. So projection, ego-based consciousness, all of these things. The difficult thing is the analogy I use. It's, imagine you come downstairs at 4 a.m, the electricity is off, and you drop your keys in the dark and you can't find them. And then you look outside and you see a light on the street, and you say to yourself, I'm going to go out there and look for my keys because it's light there. That's what people do all day long. They're always looking outside of themselves for the answers that exist within. The keys are in you. It does you no good to go outside and look under the lamp. You know, it's like going to a doctor and giving him all the symptoms, and then he writes all these prescriptions, and then you say, okay, can I have the prescriptions? And he says, no, this one's for your mom, this one's for your boss, this one, right? That's not how it works. It's not all outside you. There's no blame, shame, and justification. There's simply gratitude, which gives you perspective that the past is great, the present's better, and the future is brighter. There's forgiveness, which gives you peace. It allows you in the second mindset to react by going back to center, back into truth consciousness. There's accountability, which reaffirms that life's about lessons, and lessons will keep on coming until you learn them. And the way we know we haven't learned them is if pain exists. So we got to keep on learning those lessons. So what do we do with accountability? We say to ourselves, what did I do to attract this to myself, and what am I supposed to learn from it? And then finally, we look within for inspiration, for in spirit, for our spirit, the clearing of the connection, the clarifying of the interference, and the clearing of the corrosion to the connection that separates us, that causes fear. Fear is not a motivator, it's a depreciator. Fear is the most misunderstood thing in the world. Fear actually creates separation. But what fear does, why people mistake it for motivation and why they think they can be motivated by fear, what fear does is it actually focuses us. And in order to harness the power of intention, the quantum field of intention, that field which exists, that it includes everything and everyone. The problem is we need to get focused. And so instead of finding inspiration to focus us and finding consistent, persistent behavior in an enjoyable manner, we use fear, which is cheating us because it's so easy to go into fear, which accelerates us in the wrong direction and also depreciates us of all our energy. It's a counterintuitive measure, but yet I'm trying to teach people to live in truth consciousness, to do best they can. That process of action, reaction, mindset to mindset is a muscle. So consider it just like trying to lift weights. When you get tired and you're not as good as you want to be, just realize you need to rest and you'll do better tomorrow. You can start with 1 rep and end up with 100 reps by the end of the year. You'll be much better off. You still have the potential of hundreds more reps. So that's my perspective of the continuum of the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. The goal of it is simply to be happy. We have a happiness problem in this world, and my goal is to empower at least 1,000 people, to empower at least 1,000 people, to empower at least 1,000 people, 1,000 times 1,000 is 1,000,000, 1,000,000 times 1,000, 1,000,000,000. If I can impact 1,000,000,000 people to be happy, this world will have more than enough of everything for everyone. And that's actually how I figured out how to truly be rich. Thanks so much, Janet, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I wish you a great day. Thank you so much. So honored. Thank you, David. Have a great day.
I hope this was good. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Well, you guys, that is a wrap. Really want to thank you, beautiful and handsome, just amazing human beings. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. Our goal here at Happiness from Within is that this episode has touched your heart and soul in some way, and that you're able to take one golden nugget and apply it to your life today. If you found any value in any of these episodes, it would mean the world to me if you can just take 30 seconds to hop on over to iTunes or Spotify and leave a 5-star review and a comment. It helps to spread the message of happiness from within. And if any of my episodes have resonated with you in any way, I am an inner transformational coach. I coach women how to absolutely transform their inner selves, helping them to identify certain patterns, helping them come out of the darkness and into the light to help them have more confidence and move forward in their life. I offer different packages from 30, 60, 90, and also one-on-one sessions. Again, if my work resonates with you, I would love to hop on a free call with you for 15 minutes to see if this would be a good fit for both of us. You can actually reach out to me on Instagram. I'm at Happiness from Within Now, and just send me a direct message and I would love to connect with you. And anyone listening to this, I would love to connect with you either way. You can reach me. I'm on Facebook at Happiness from Within Now. And again, on Instagram at Happiness from Within Now. And I just hope that you're having a great day wherever you are. And please don't forget to smile. And I will catch you guys next Tuesday. Have a great day. Bye for now.